Welcome to the Retreat Leaders Podcast, the show for visionary coaches, healers, wellness pros, and small business owners who aren't just here to host another feel-good getaway, but to build a profitable, impactful retreat business. I'm your host, Shannon Jamail, retreat strategist, business mentor, and owner of a 46-acre retreat center. I've hosted over 100 retreats around the world, and I've made every mistake so you don't have to. Each week, we'll dive into the mindset, marketing, money, business, and mechanics behind sold-out, profitable retreats. Plus, hear from expert guests who are walking the talk. Whether you're planning your first retreat or scaling your 100th, you're in the right place. Welcome to the show. Hey guys, welcome back to the Retreat Leaders Podcast. I am so excited about my guest today. I was doing some research and I think he's going to have some really good things to share with us today. So welcome Dan Berger to the show.
Thank you so much, Shannon. Good to be here.
Yeah, I'm so glad. Would you prefer to go by Don? Because your name says
That's
Don.
okay. I mean, I think when people Google, I prefer Dan, just because it's easier to Google, but it's pronounced Don, so it's
Got it.
okay to go by Dan.
Okay, well, welcome. Will you just start by just telling us who you are, a little bit about your history, and what brought you to today?
Sure. So I was born in Israel. I moved to the States when I was 9. I'm adopted, so I've always struggled with my sense of belonging, which is why I naturally made my way to hospitality. It's kind of belonging is one of the first steps of hospitality, in my view. And my professional career started really after grad school when I started a software company in the hospitality industry. It was event design software, so specifically floor plan software for events. And by the time I sold it in 2018, our software was used to plan about 1.5 million events per year. So I really got to understand the power of intentional design of events and spaces. And then I took some time off, wrote a book about the topic of belonging, and it's called The Quest, The Definitive Guide to Finding Belonging. And I basically walk readers through how to find their sense of belonging. It's kind of self-help meets academia. And I then decided to open up a retreat facility here in Boise, Idaho. I really want to share Idaho with folks, given that I've fallen in love with it in the last 6 years. Prior to that, I was on the East Coast. And yeah, I have a 14-month-old daughter. I'm 44, and I'm happily married to Jen.
Awesome. Okay. I'm really drawn to this belonging thing because I think one of the biggest things that happens in retreat is the people that are showing up are looking to belong. They're looking to connect. They're looking to not feel alone, to not feel like they're on this island of whatever they're feeling or whatever they're going through, that they're by themselves. And so they're coming to retreat for belonging. And so I'm really drawn to that. Can you dig a little deeper into why that's important to you?
Sure. So after I kind of landed, once I wrote my book, I decided to open up a retreat facility, like I said. And the core piece of it is that I like to say it's a retreat facility that cosplays as a hotel because we usually have retreats on the weekends and then we have transient business on the weekdays. But all of it is full buyout for the retreats. And I think that a retreat is basically a starts as a temporary community, and the right ones are create long lasting communities. And it's because people don't have the place that they are seeking in life, so they go on a retreat to kind of find themselves, and then additionally find people who are like them, and that leads to a sense of belonging in that community that hopefully continues over time.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. You host men's groups. I'm assuming and I hate to assume, so please forgive me, but you host men's retreats. Is that correct at your own place?
I don't host men's retreats, but I have a men's group that meets on a monthly basis, and we have about 27 members because we find that number is really good for people to show up. So once you have like 27, the rule of kind of half or two-thirds or half, usually we get about 12 people attending. So I find that sweet number of 26, 27 means that about half of them show up. And basically, we get together. We have a very specific protocol that we follow in order to kick things off. Call it a heart warmer. We then go through needs and leads that people might have. A heart warmer might be something to the effect of, if you were a fly on the wall, what conversation would you want to listen to? And or other things that get us to go a little deeper. And I really refer to it as a platform for relationships because once the in-person gathering takes place, it's called Fellas and Fire Pits. Once the in-person gathering takes place, there is this platform for friendships and relationships that take place both online and offline through an active WhatsApp group, an active activity group, a book club. And I find that those icebreakers really are hard openers. And as a result, people are much more connected to each other in that community we've built.
I love it. It sounds like, though, Don, that you need to be hosting retreats for men as well. And I say that because there is not enough men doing that in this space, and it's desperately needed. One of the quotes that I saw somewhere that you said, and so correct me if it was incorrect because we know how the media is that men are hurting too. Men are suffering. Men are going through changes. There's things that are happening for men, and they're just not talking about it. Would you agree with that?
100%. I mean, I think men are going through a belonging crisis. I think men uh, are feeling punished for previous generations' mistakes, and they need a place to connect more deeply with themselves and with other men, getting in touch with their emotions to be able to deal with kind of society, what society has become. And don't get me wrong, I mean, where society is now is a much better place than it ever was. However, men need that safe space to connect with themselves, with others. And it's not a secret that men are suffering. I mean, more deaths of despair through alcohol-related liver disease to overdoses to suicide are men. I mean, that's why there's an incel movement, there's a groyper movement, there's all kinds of different movements that are turning men into tribes that are really dangerous to society. So they're more prone to radicalization, and they need that safe space.
Popping in real quick to tell you that most retreat leaders don't have a retreat problem. They have a visibility problem. You can have the most transformational retreat in the world, but if people can't find you, it doesn't matter. That's why I wrote my newest book, Retreat Business Marketing. This isn't BS motivation or recycled Instagram advice. It's a real breakdown of how marketing actually works now, including AI search, SEO, messaging, and how to position your retreat so the right people recognize themselves in it. If you want to stop guessing, stop throwing content into the void, and start building visibility that compounds over time, this book is for you. Grab your copy at retreatbusinessmarketing.com. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. When I was practicing as a mental health therapist, we would constantly be inundated with statistics, and the statistics for men self-harm, and typically, and this is hard to say, but typically men don't just self-harm, they usually go through completion, which is suicide. Um, the percentages just continue to increase every year. And so it's incredibly heartbreaking.
Yeah, I mean, most of the gun violence is men. So, and most
Yeah.
suicides are men. And
Yeah.
it's really a crisis um, that is not given enough attention. And I think the solution is helping men find their sense of belonging. And I think retreats do that. I'm
Hmm.
humbled by your suggestion that I should host retreats, but I'm one of those people who believe that those who can't do teach. I think I'll host a great retreat because I think I'm a pretty good facilitator, but I have this imposter syndrome that no one would show up.
Well, we need to work on that because I believe the opposite, not just in general, but for you especially. I think, Don, that you absolutely should be holding space for these men in longer periods than your meetings. And mainly because, as you know, having a retreat center and just being in the hospitality industry, being removed from your everyday, we'll call it identity, but it chores, lists, asks, things that are needed from you, just being removed from that space for a longer period of time really does allow you to get deeper. It's when you can finally put the mask down. It's when you can put the fake identity down. You can set it all down and you can really dig into the nitty gritty of it. And although I still think, of course, your men's groups are beautiful and amazing, when you can really dig in deeper is when it can be stretched over a few days. So I would love to see you do that. And I know that you would be fantastic at it.
Thank
Being
you.
in the hospitality and the industry that you've come from, you've mentioned belonging a few times. You know how much I love that. Talk to us about some things that someone would find in your book that they could apply in the retreat space when it comes to belonging. That, by the way, you could also apply when you host your first retreat.
Yeah, so I talk about two different frameworks that I think are helpful for individuals seeking belonging and that are pretty good tools for facilitators. The first one is what I call the belonging tank, and it's basically all the different activities that give you a sense of belonging. So it might be spending time with your family, it might be catching up with friends, it might even be parasocial bonds with fictional characters, it might be connecting with old photos, old mementos. It could be these micro interactions with strangers. It can be as little as flying a flag because it is a form of self-esteem or signaling. It can even be contemplative practices where you connect with the universe and the awe of it or your higher power. And finally, it can be group membership, whether it's part of a group or whether it's an event or a festival or a religious ceremony. So there are many, many activities we partake in that give us a sense of belonging. The average person has about 7 to 8, and the kind of range is 2 to 17. And mine, being what I call an eager belonger, has a lot more than perhaps reluctant belongers. And the second framework is identifying these personas. And there are 4 personas: the eager belongers, who I call chimpanzees. Those are the folks who just have a high, uh, who have attachment, strong attachment, and a high need to belong. Then there are the meerkats, and they are the anxious belongers. They have low attachment and a high need to belong. And you can envision those animals as I'm speaking about them. You then have the snow leopards, which are reluctant belongers with attachment issues and a low need to belong. And finally, you have the wolves that have a strong attachment and a low need to belong. And I think about that both as a wolf pack where you can do things together, or a lone wolf where you can do things on your own. So those are the 2 frameworks that I think are helpful for retreat organizers, because you can figure out what the belonging personas in the room are and create a space that's safe for those people.
I love that. I love that so much. And so you explain those two frameworks in your book, which I saw is available on Amazon. And I think you mentioned that you might have something for our listeners when it comes to your book.
Yeah, so anybody who's listening can shoot me an email, Dan at assemblehospitality.com, and I'll send them a free copy of the book.
That's amazing. Yeah. And his information will obviously be in the show notes as well. So you mentioned for the average person, there's 7 to 8 areas of ways that we belong, which by the way, made me think of like the season we're in football, right? You mentioned putting a flag up, and I think that's a great example of that, right? So people might fly their football flag. And when somebody
I
else
might go
sees
to
it,
a game.
yeah, it's immediately like, oh, you follow the Texans or you whatever it is. And so I can totally see what you're saying. Does that change by sex? I'm curious. 7 to 8, is it average for just across the species, or do you find that there's women have more or men have more, or it's just across the board?
I don't know, but one sense of belonging that men actually get is through seeking partners that they consider good looking.
Mm-hmm.
And the research shows this because men tend to hold looks in high regard, and they see that as a signaling mechanism that they are highly interesting, or for lack of a better word. Um, so that's one difference. But other than that, I'm not sure of any other differences.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So across the board, as humans, we kind of fall in the same sphere. The only difference is men put probably a little bit more weight in the looks category than maybe women do. And so, okay, no, that's an honest differentiator. I can say that word.
Yeah,
So,
you said it.
tell us about your retreat space. First of all, I know you're in the hospitality industry, but what made you think like I'm going to do a retreat space, especially if you've not yet hosted a retreat? You notice I keep saying yet.
So I've hosted a lot of retreats in the corporate world for my last
Okay.
business, with a software company with 120 employees.
Yeah.
Um, and so we had executive retreats all the time. We had leadership retreats all the time on a quarterly basis. We would rent out a space, stay there for a few days, and kind of work on strategy and issues and rocks. Uh, so I like to say that I moved from software to hardware. I think the thesis is that more people need to get together because of where the world is moving. We don't know what's real anymore, so getting in person is the best. I mean, for all I know, you might be in, a bot.
Mm,
So that's the first thing. The the second thing, I really believe that the biggest things happen in the smallest rooms.
mm,
So when you get together a group of 7 to 11 people, which is our capacity is 11. We have 11 rooms, but the capacity for couples is 18. With couples, it's 18. But when you get together, a small group, they can really make magic happen in the space you design for them, as opposed to being able to go to a place like a hotel that's got these big four walls and it's boring, and you got shared space with traveling sales reps and kids. So you get a balance of privacy and intimacy. You get your own room, but you also get to be intimate with your coworkers in the common spaces.
Yes, you nailed it so much. And there's a couple things that you mentioned that really stand out to me. We don't know what's real anymore. So I was watching something the other day, and it was somebody that I follow, and she is showing this whole social media account of this older woman who has millions of followers. She's making money, like it's a big account, right? She's fake. Like she's not even a real person. It's designed by AI. The whole account's run by AI. Somebody's making money on this fake persona, and you look at her and you think she's real. Super scary. And then I heard a quote recently where somebody said we're now going to start heading. It's going to be sometime this year where we're going to start labeling things as human made versus AI made, because so much is going to be AI that the only differentiator now is going to be human made. But it all does tie into like we this world that we've created, which definitely has some good parts to it. Please know I'm not anti AI. I'm actually very pro AI, but when used ethically and done correctly. But it makes us crave even more that human to human connection in the smaller spaces that you're describing, which is why I think the retreat industry as a whole is seeing such a ginormous boom. And I mean, it started obviously post COVID, just a lot of people brought awareness to like their health and wanting to have better practices. And there's a great way to do it is through retreats. But it's just gotten bigger and bigger. And the end of last year, the beginning of this year, they're projecting it to be just ridiculous in a great way. And so I think it's because of what you're describing, Don. I think it's that wanting to feel like they belong. I think it's wanting to have that human to human connection. I think it's wanting to be in a more intimate space where they're not with hundreds of other people and they can truly have this like I'm looking in your eyes talking to you connection. And so I think you're like money on it, and it was a good investment for you personally and professionally to create the space. Tell us about your space.
Sure. So the space is called Assemble Boise. It's in the heart of Boise, Idaho, and there are 11 bedrooms. Four of them are singles, and seven of them are doubles. There is two common spaces and a kitchen. So one common space is a meeting room with whiteboard walls. The other one that can be reconfigured to whatever the retreat organizer wants to do. And the second one is a shared dining or boardroom. And then there's obviously an open kitchen with a big island and whatnot. Each of the rooms is modeled after a famous physicist to inspire those who stay there to think big. And there's different colors, different wallpapers, but they all have the same shared elements: a sitting area, a workstation, and a bathroom. So each one's got its own bathroom en suite. Outdoors, we have a huge outdoors with a hydrotherapy circuit, cold plunge sauna, and 13-person hot tub. There's a gym, there's a fire pit, and there's a huge outdoor kitchen. And like I said, it's in the heart of Boise, really close to downtown. It's in a place called the North End, which is kind of like the Georgetown of Boise. It's 15 minutes from the airport. And we have this concierge service that will set up anything for the retreat organizer that they don't want to do, from food to yoga classes to airport pickups.
Okay, for you retreat leaders out there that are looking for really cool spaces, you have to check it out. His information is in the show notes. I was looking through it. And two things that I think are important to retreat leaders, Don nails with his location. One is just everything he described, the amenities of it, the setup of it, the private rooms with private bathrooms, like all of that. But the other thing that people don't realize is important, and Don does because of his background and the software that he developed and sold, is there's no questions. I know that sounds silly, but when I looked at it, I knew exactly the layout. I knew exactly what was there. I know exactly what I can market and what I can use and what I mean, he lays it out so perfectly. The videos, everything is done so well. And for some people, they might be like, big deal, Shannon. It's a big deal. So, Don, kudos to you because that's exactly what you want so that retreat leaders can easily look at that and go, yep, I'm ready to book versus not being sure about how the space is set up. So it's awesome. I think you might even have a little discount for anybody who wants to book your space.
That's right. So for people who book 2 nights, we'll give them the third night for free. And
Awesome.
generally speaking, that'll be about 4 grand for the whole space, which is quite affordable given kind of what people charge for retreats. And so you charge, two, 3 grand for 10 people, that's 20 grand right there. Uh, so excuse me, if you charge 2 grand for one person, it's 20 grand if you have 10 people, and then the retreat organizer. So it
Yeah.
can be highly profitable from a margin perspective for retreat organizers. And yeah, I mean, the the really cool thing about this space is that not only is it the largest Airbnb in Boise, but it's an Airbnb met with hotel amenities. So soundproof walls, blackout shades, super high tech. So it can be for everything from wellness retreats to corporate offsites and family
Yeah.
reunions.
Yeah, I saw that. It's awesome. And it looks like, just like you mentioned with the concierge service, there's ability to add on activities and extras that, you can really create some really cool excursions and weave into your agenda some really cool things.
Thank you.
Yeah, I love it. Well, Don, thank you so much for sharing your expertise. Everything will be linked in the show notes, the link to his email address, the facility that is absolutely beautiful in Boise, and also just another link to his book in case you want to actually purchase the book, because
Thank you.
all of us entrepreneurs enjoy that as well. And then plus, so you can leave a review for Don. Thank you so much, Don, for being on the show.
It's been my pleasure.
Thanks for tuning in to the Retreat Leaders Podcast. If you love this episode, please make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your retreat besties. Want more support? Grab free resources at theretreatleadersplaybook.com. Until next time, lead boldly, serve deeply, and retreat profitably.